Oh man, that's good. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Hey, this is going to be part 2 of our study of the causes of the American Revolution. The last time we left off, if you'll remember, we had talked about the French and Indian War and how that was one of the first causes. Just in review, the British had decided to tax the colonists in order to help pay for the war that they with the French and the Indians. Of course, we weren't happy about that. The colonists weren't, and they thought that it was just unfair because they didn't have representation in the Parliament in England, so they shouldn't be taxed. But moving on, we're going to talk about the Stamp Act. So the colonists believe that the British have violated their natural rights and accuse the British of taxations without representations, like we mentioned, to help pay for that war. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to use that video because her voice just got annoying even to me. So the next thing, after they had repealed the Stamp Act, as a result of the colonists and the Stamp Act Congress that they created, the British decided, hey, we're going to just tax your imports, specifically tea. So it's also known as the Tea Act, but officially it was the Townshend duties, or the Townshend Act. They were still in place, thus implicitly agreeing to accept Parliament's right of taxation. Okay, so even though they said, you're right, maybe we shouldn't have done that, or taxed you, they still decided that that they were going to do that anyway. So just ignore this circle here. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at this word we have. You guys know how much I like words. We have implicitly. Okay. Now we have in. We've had the word explicit before. But this word is implicit. Explicit means clearly stated. M would be the opposite of EX. So that means not clearly stating. So what this means is that even without coming out and saying that they agreed with their right to tax the colonists without the representation, that it did imply that they did, because they went ahead and did it anyway. Okay? And please feel free to pause at any point if you need to take notes and catch up, okay? I'll be right here when you get back. Okay, Samuel Adams was one of the founding fathers of the United States and was a leader of the movement that became the American Revolution. He is one of the founding members of the Sons of Liberty. Sorry, I gotta figure out how to get that one. Okay, and that was Sons of Liberty. Alrighty then. Sons of Liberty, and they were one of the groups that believed that the colonists had their right to govern themselves and to separate from England. So of course they weren't happy with this taxation without representation. So they were one of the leading protesters of this tax. And one of the most famous protests that we know is the Boston Tea Party, of course. So. Okay. Now, the Boston Massacre. Now, when you think massacre, you think like hundreds of people killed. In this one, there were only actually 5 casualties. But a casualty is a casualty, though. So, in this, the angry mob harasses the British soldiers. So, the soldiers opened fire and killed 5 colonists and injured 6 others. What's sad about this is that the colonists that were harassing British soldiers were only throwing like snowballs and rocks and random things like that. So it would seem that they kind of overreacted in shooting them all. The sentence that the men, because they did try these soldiers for firing and killing these men, but the sentence that the men that were found guilty received was just a branding on their hands. So literally a slap on the wrist, which probably did not help the relationship between the colonists and the British. Okay, so then we have the Boston Tea Party, which of course was when the Sons of Liberty snuck aboard the British ships with a T and poured it into the harbor. During this time period, though, it wasn't known as the Boston Tea Party. It was just referred to as the destruction of the tea. That's pretty simple. It's political protest by the Sons of Liberty in Boston. They were against the tax policy of the British government and the East Indian Company that controlled all the tea imported into the colony. So it was basically a monopoly on tea. If you wanted tea, you had to buy it from the British and you had to pay their tax. So they weren't exactly happy about that. Okay. The Intolerable Acts. As you can see, with the word intolerable, we know that able means able to, and means not. So they were not able to tolerate these acts, which is why it's called Intolerable Acts. And let's discuss these acts and why they were not able to tolerate these acts. Well, King George III, the King of England at the time, closed the Boston Harbor, which was the main harbor in the northern colonies. So it's their main means of economy. So that really hurt the colonists, their economy at the time. They also enacted the Quartering Acts, where the British soldiers would come in and live in the homes of the colonists. And there was nothing the colonists could do about it. They would come in, they would have to cook for the soldiers, they'd have to wash their clothes, they'd have to put up with them doing whatever they wanted to. Often the soldiers were rude, to say the least, to the colonists that they were staying with. So they were not happy about this. And in fact, you'll see that a lot of these acts the British committed against the colonists led to some of the Bill of Rights we have, because there is an amendment in the Bill of Rights that says there's no quartering of troops. Okay? So as a result of all this, the colonists formed the First Continental Congress, and this is where they're going to meet together and discuss what they should do about the British. So what they come up with is something known as the Olive Branch Petition. What this is, and this was in July 1775, it was an attempt to avoid a full-blown war because they knew a war was coming. They've had all these causes we talked about coming up. So they wrote this petition, got it together, sent it to England, and it affirmed American loyalty to Britain. So they said, yes, we're not happy, you know this, but we are going to be loyal to Britain even so. So they sent this to the King of England. Okay. Unfortunately, this did not stop the impending war. So we have Lexington and Concord. This is, of course, where you see over here on this side, you got Paul Revere. The British are coming, yeah. That's that famous one. So the British plan to take control of weapons in 2 cities. So they're coming in to take control of our weapons in Lexington and Concord, which would have been crippling for the colonists to control the weapons in these 2 areas. So Paul Revere alerts the town, riding through town, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. You remember the lanterns. So if not, we'll talk about that later. So then later, these 2 wars, they lead to the Second Continental Congress, or these 2 battles rather. We talked about the First Continental Congress. This is the second one, and in this, they were further discussion of what they should do with the British. So as a result, and you'll see there's a little spelling error there, sorry about that. The Declaration of Independence was made on July 2nd, and it was given to the public on the 4th of July. The Declaration of Independence was announced that the 13 colonies were no longer part of the British Empire. So this basically means, we declare war. We're not going to be part of England anymore. Okay. So this is also what they came up with from this Congress. The Articles of Confederation. This is what we had before the Constitution. It was our first form of government. It was an agreement among the 13 founding states that established the United States as a confederate of sovereign states and served as its first constitution. A confederate just means a group or a league, partnership. Sovereign means by itself. So, sorry about that. So again, that is the road to the American Revolution. After the Declaration of Independence, we are in a full blown out war, and we'll discuss that in the coming segments. We'll actually get into the war, look at the battles, and everything that goes along with that. So, thanks for listening, guys. Again, if you need to rewind, pause, whatever, do what you need to do to get your notes taken, okay? And be ready to discuss this in class. Thanks so much. So.